You reach for it when you want to disappear. Something you would rather not leave a trace of. A search you would rather no one saw. A gift you are buying. A site you would rather keep to yourself. You open a private window. The little hat and glasses appear. The page goes dark, and you feel invisible. And that feeling is the problem, because private browsing is one of the most misunderstood buttons on the entire internet. It does do something real. It is just almost never the thing people think it is. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what it hides, exactly what it does not, and why the gap between those two things has landed at least one giant company in court. What it actually does. Let us start with the honest version of what a private window is for. When you browse normally, your browser remembers things on your own device. The pages you visited go into your history. Cookies pile up so sites can recognize you next time. What you typed into search boxes and forms gets saved to help you later. A private window simply stops keeping those local notes. When you close it, the history for that session is gone. The cookies are thrown away. The typed entries are not saved. That is the whole feature. It is local amnesia. It is a way to use your own computer without leaving marks on your own computer. And that is genuinely useful, just not for the reason most people open it. The clean desk, not the cloak. Here is the mental model that fixes everything. A private window is a clean desk, not an invisibility cloak. When you are done, the desk is wiped, so the next person who sits down at your machine sees nothing of what you did. That is real protection against one specific threat, which is other people who can physically get at your device. But a clean desk does nothing about the people watching the building. It does nothing about the shop you walked into. It does nothing about the road you took to get there. Private mode protects you from the people who share your computer. It does almost nothing about everyone else on the path between you and the site. Your network still sees you, so who is everyone else? Start with whoever runs your connection. Your internet provider still sees which sites you connect to, because your traffic still flows through them exactly as it always does. Private mode changes nothing about that. If you are on a work or school network, the people who run that network can still see the same thing, because you are still using their road. The little hat in the corner of your browser has no power over the wires your request travels down. It is a setting inside one application on your device. It was never talking to the network at all. The site knows it is you. Now the destination. The website you visit still sees you arrive. It still sees your network address, the same one you would have in a normal window, because private mode does not change your address at all. It can still read everything your browser reveals about your device. And the moment you sign in to anything, you have personally introduced yourself by name. People do this constantly. They open a private window to look something up, then log into their email or their social account in the same window. And in that instant, any sense of anonymity is gone. You told them who you are. The private window does not stop you from doing that. It just quietly lets you. Fingerprinting does not care about private mode. And even if you never log in, there is the deeper problem we have talked about before on this channel. Your device has a fingerprint. The fonts you have, your screen size, the precise way your graphics and audio behave. All of it forms a pattern specific enough to recognize you again. Private mode does not hide any of that. A private window and a normal window on the same machine look essentially identical to a fingerprinting script. So a site that wants to recognize a returning visitor often still can. Private mode or not. You cleared the cookies, but you brought the same face. This is the part that surprises people the most, because clearing cookies feels like it should be enough, and for a long time it was. It is simply not enough anymore. Your resolver sees the names. There is one more watcher people forget. Before your browser can connect to a site, it has to look up that site's name and turn it into address. Like looking a name up in a phone book. That lookup goes to a resolver, often run by your internet provider, and it sees the name of every site you ask for. Private mode does nothing about this either, unless you have specifically changed how that lookup works. The list of places you visit is still being read by someone, one name at a time, completely independent of whether your local history is being saved. The name oversells it. So why does everyone get this so wrong? A big part of it is the name. Words like private and incognito promise far more than the feature delivers. They suggest you are hidden from the world, when really you are only hidden from your own device's memory. For years, surveys have shown that large numbers of people believe private mode hides their activity from their employer, from their internet provider, even from the websites themselves. None of that is true, and the belief is so widespread that it became a legal problem. A major browser maker faced a lawsuit arguing that people were misled about what Incognito actually did, and it ended in a settlement involving the deletion of huge amounts of collected data. The lesson there is simple. Enough people misunderstood this one feature that it turned into a courtroom fight. What it is genuinely good for. Now, to be fair, let us give private mode its due, because it is not useless. It is excellent on a shared or public computer, where you really do want to leave no local trace for the next person. It is the easiest way to view a site as a logged out stranger would, which is genuinely handy for checking how something looks to the public, or seeing a fresh version of a page without your saved login. It is good for keeping one thing out of your own search and address bar suggestions. It is good for logging into two accounts at once, one in a normal window and one in private. These are real practical uses. They are all about your own device and your own convenience. Not one of them is about hiding from the network or the sites, the layers, honestly. So if private mode is not the answer, what changes each layer? And the honest answer is that no single button covers all of them, which is exactly why this gets confusing. The people who share your device are handled by private mode or just by logging out. The network watching your connection is a different layer entirely, the domain of tools that reroute your traffic. The sites recognizing you is yet another layer, the domain of fingerprinting and accounts, where even rerouting your traffic does not help if you sign in or carry the same device fingerprint. 3 different watchers, 3 different layers, and one little hat icon that only ever covered the first one. When you see it laid out like that, the feeling of invisibility falls apart, and what is left is something much narrower and much more honest. Why the feeling is the danger, and that feeling is the actual risk here. A tool that does a small job well is fine. A tool that makes you feel far safer than you are is how people get caught off guard. Someone who knows private mode only wipes their local history, behaves carefully and stays out of trouble. Someone who believes it makes them invisible, does things they would never do if they understood the truth, and is quietly exposed the entire time. The danger was never the feature. The danger is the gap between what it feels like and what it does. That gap is where the trouble lives. And closing it is the whole point. A quick work example. Make it concrete. Picture someone at work who opens a private window to look at job listings because they do not want it in their history. Here is who sees what. Their own browser saves nothing. So a coworker borrowing the laptop later finds nothing. Good, that worked. But the company network they are sitting on logs the connection to the job site because the traffic went down the company's road. The resolver looked up the site's name and recorded it. The job site itself saw a visitor arrive from the company's address, with the same device fingerprint as always. And if that person checks their personal email in the same window out of habit, they have now signed in by name on the very network they were trying to hide from. The private window did its one job perfectly. It just was not the job that mattered here, and the person felt safe the entire time they were exposed. This is not a VPN. The most common mix-up is between private mode and a tool that reroutes your traffic. They solve completely different problems, and people constantly expect one to do the other's job. Private mode works inside your browser and only manages local memory. It never touches your network address or the path your data takes. A rerouting tool does the opposite. It changes where your traffic appears to come from and hides the destinations from the people running your local network. But it does nothing to clear your local history and nothing to stop a site fingerprinting your device or recognizing you the moment you log in. Neither one is a disappearing act. Stacking both still leaves the site able to recognize you by your fingerprint and by your accounts. That is the honest ceiling. There is no single setting, and no pair of settings, that simply turns you off. Every layer is a separate fight. The mobile blind spot, and it gets murkier on a phone, where most browsing actually happens now. A private tab in a phone browser follows the same rules. It only forgets locally. But on a phone, a huge share of what you do never goes through a browser at all. It goes through apps. And apps have their own logins, their own stored identifiers, and their own quiet connections back to their makers. None of which a browser's private mode can touch, because it is not involved.